Why do we love the stories where Jesus clashes with the Pharisees and the religious establishment of his day? Welcome to this morning's simple thought from the Word of God. And in Luke 13 there is such a story, and that kind of gives us a great answer. He was teaching in one of the synagogues on the Sabbath, and behold, there was a woman which had a spirit of infirmity 18 years and was bowed over, could in no wise lift up herself. She was bowed down. She was not able to lift herself. She was not able to walk like a human, erect, but she was constantly just looking down, and she was in a miserable state for 18 years. But notice this about her: she was nonetheless in the synagogue. She didn't make a request to Jesus for healing. She came there to hear the teaching only. Actually, she was just desirous of hearing from God. She was content and happy hearing from God. And you could say, in such a state, I would not show myself. In such a state, I would rather withdraw. In such a state, I would not go in the fellowship. I'm not doing well enough. Think about this woman when you are tempted with that thought to avoid the fellowship. Don't, because this woman was there and she was right to be there. She would just have been happy to hear Christ teach, and that would have been enough for her. She did not ask Jesus to heal her, and Jesus is the one who calls her out and says, you are loosed from your infirmity. He laid his hands on her, and immediately she was straight, and she was made straight and glorified God. And that's beautiful. That is awesome. God goes beyond. Like, we hear the teaching, we come to the fellowship even when we feel unfit, and then God answers way beyond what we desire, and that's beautiful. But then, of course, the ruler of the synagogue answered with indignation. He became angry about it. And listen, when someone speaks against the work of Christ, against the work of God, then don't be fooled. There can be like a good reasoning, like they bring up some law or some rule or some habit or some cultural thing or some custom or a tradition, anything. They bring up anything. Don't be fooled about it, because it says a few verses later in verse 17 that when Jesus answers this man, then all his adversaries were ashamed. They were not sticklers about, not just sticklers about the law. They hated Jesus. They were enemies of Jesus. When someone would stop the work of God for whatever reason, don't be fooled about it. It is an animosity to God. And that's why we love these stories in the Gospels where Jesus and these Pharisees and these rulers and the members of the great council of the Jews, they clash. Why do we love them? Because we see the grace of God, and then we see hatred towards the God of grace. And those two things clash, and for us it's beautiful to see that, because it's such a contrast. And in our souls we need that, and our hearts rejoice with it. As it says here, this man says, do not come on the Sabbath day, do your healings on the 6 days, and it's work, and it was never meant that this, that there would be a limitation on God doing miracles on the Sabbath day. No, man had to cease from his work. This was obviously God's work. There was no reason for it not to happen. But this guy didn't dare to go against Jesus, so he went against the crowd because he believed that the people he could control better, and he was not so probably afraid of them, not so worried about what he might say. But Jesus answers, and he gives an amazing answer, and in his amazing answer, he basically does this like the ruler of the synagogue wanted to shame this woman and everyone else, and Jesus just turned that shaming back on him, and then everybody was rejoicing. Everybody was rejoicing, and that's the beauty of it, really. That when the grace of God clash with those who hate the God of grace, guess which one will win? And the answer is we will win, because all that legalism, all that would stop the work of God. It won't have the power to do so, but it will be the grace of God and the God of grace who will prevail. And that's our joy, and that's our expectation in our day as we go forward. God bless you with these thoughts. Hope to see you soon again.